I'm Alan Wardis, and you're listening to Think Radio. What the heck is the ICELab?
I don't know.
Enter maniacal laughter. We don't have mad scientists, but we are one part mad scientist.
That's just a taste of my conversation with Dan Marshall and Delaney Keating from the ICELab on the campus of Western State Colorado University on today's episode of Think Radio.
Think Radio is supported by the Gunnison Country Times, Gunnison, Colorado's locally owned hometown newspaper. Think Radio is also supported by listeners like you. To find out how you can join the Think Radio community of patrons, visit alanwardismedia.com. That's ALANWARTES media.com.
There's been a lot of talk about economic development, and even a few studies done. Normally what happens with those? Somebody reads them, I'm pretty sure, and then they collect dust on a shelf. Ask anyone, they'll tell you the same thing. But then in the last couple of years, something new came along. It's this thing called the One Valley Prosperity Project, OVPP. It's hard to say, but it was pretty cool. It was a county-led effort, really in collaboration with a lot of people, to gather citizens together and talk about a lot of different things, not just economic development, but healthcare and tourism and housing. One of the things that made OVPP different is that it has finally led to something more than a report collecting dust on a shelf. And one of those tangible results is the ICELab. ICE stands for innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship. And the idea was to provide a place where economic development could be nurtured and grown and encouraged, all from within the valley, not chasing smokestacks, but looking for the ideas that had legs here at home. My guests today are Dan Marshall, director of the ICELab, and Delaney Keating, director of the ICELab Accelerator Project. And we're going to talk more about what those two things are and what they mean for the Gunnison Valley. Delaney, Dan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start at the basics here, because I walk all around campus, I walk all around town, and I see these signs advertising something called the ICELab. And, especially here around Halloween, all I can think of is mad scientists cooking up potions. What the heck is the ICELab?
I don't know.
Enter maniacal laughter. We don't have mad scientists, but we are one part mad scientist.
What does ICE even stand for? Let's go that far back.
Well, ICE is an acronym we see a lot with these types of centers. So it's used. ICE House belongs to the Kauffman Foundation. What the acronym stands for is innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship. So it sort of encapsulates what happens inside a facility like the ICELab.
We're talking about how this has been in the ideation phase for a long time.
Yep.
It's been something the community has talked about for a long time. Go back and pick up that thread.
Yeah, and to clarify too, I think Chris Green, a lot of his vision, as I understand it, was around makerspace and a place where people could come together and have, these relational collisions and thought leadership, and a place for people to innovate for the campus and the community. When it goes into the community and how it actually became a reality, was an opportunity for Western to pursue a sizable grant from the federal government through the EDA, or the Economic Development Administration, called a Power Grant, which we received in response to the timing of the mine closure, the Somerset mine closure that affected Gunnison and Delta County.
Coal mines.
Mm-hmm.
Coal mines that had been there for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
producing a lot of coal, and producing a lot of revenue for Gunnison County, right? Not just jobs, most of which were in Delta, but revenue for Gunnison County, and that went away. And that's why the federal government was willing to step in with some money. Have I got that right?
Yes, and that's why part of our programming is in service to Gunnison and Delta County right now. So the space is built right now really around, 2 staff positions and answering to the charge of this grant, which is economic development focused in the delivery of our current programming.
All right, so the idea was to replace this lost coal revenue and lost jobs with something else. But what? I mean, what do you think is possible here that you're pursuing at the ICELab?
I don't know. Delaney would bring up a good point when she would always talk about the ICELab as like a startup for startups. And so developing, a mindset and an environment that allows people to think about getting the idea off the piece of paper, and moving that forward. We have people that come in that work on through our co-working space that are back-end engineers, back-end architects for app development and things of that nature. We have a few folks that are back in our incubator spot that are outdoor media related. And so the beauty of the space, and so if we can get back to the space, is it creates an environment to where it's meant for people to bump into each other. People from all different walks of life. And so students, community members, business people, business owners, community leaders. And so as you're walking in there, you're bumping into someone and that starts a conversation. People are utilizing our space to start stuff. We just help them go there.
So talk me through this. I'm sitting at my kitchen table and I've got an idea. I'm scribbling things on the back of napkins. I think maybe this idea for a business could work. Maybe it won't. How do I know? I walk in the door of the ICELab, which is there specifically for innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship. What do you have for me?
A conversation. Delaney and I see it pretty much every day. But yesterday I was sitting there and 2 people walk into the ICELab. A young lady, a Western student, wants to start a restaurant and didn't know where to start. And so I just said time out from what I was doing and sat down with her for about half hour, 45 minutes, and mapped out the steps that she needed to take to get that piece of, that idea off the piece of paper and go look for a space and then come back. And then we can restart that conversation and point her in the right direction.
Okay, so now let's take it a step further, because you've also got more than just a conversation there. From what I understand, you've also got programming. Mm-hmm. What sort of things would that person enroll in at the ICELab to take this idea to the next step?
Well, I think that one that she didn't even know about, one that barely a lot of people know about, is that we're the hub for the Small Business Development Center. And so when people tap into that and register for consulting services or counseling services, it opens up an unlimited amount of support, which is great, with professionals, industry specialists throughout the area, throughout the region, and throughout the state.
What does that cost?
Zero. Nothing.
Wait, it's free?
It is free.
So anybody off the street, you don't
Yes.
have to be affiliated with Western, you don't have to have a business already up and running. Anybody off the street can walk in here and say, I've got an idea, give me some help.
I need help.
Now that's actually a little separate from the ICELab concept, right? If I come in and say, what can the ICELab do for me? Delaney?
Well, Coach Dano is certainly just incredible working with people. So we see endless response to the time and effort that he'll put into people's businesses. For a lot of our current businesses, he's regarded most highly as the favorite coach amongst us. And he's also building out an incubator program. So we have different levels. So if we look at the levels, the lowest level buy-in is, the co-work space, which Dan talks about. And that's just that, starting the conversation and allowing yourself to be in a space where you can interact with people on a more regular basis. And then there's the SBDC. And then we're building out the incubator program. So we do have some fixed desks and fixed office space that are at about 50% market rate. To support people getting those ideas and small businesses off the ground.
So you pay a fee, you come in addition to all the things we've already talked about, you get a desk, a place to hang your hat.
Locking file cabinet, yep. internet, and just a higher level of support. We're sort of working out right now refining the details about how the incubator will work, and it starts in 2018. But Dan, you have to share the story about our incubator win that we had last week.
Take it away, Dan.
So we talked about the conversations, and how the conversations mold into more than how you're doing and what's going on. And they start talking about, what exactly they do. And so the people in the incubator space, it's pretty unique because it's developed into almost like an outdoor media focus. And we didn't think it would build out that way. People just started showing up, and they continue to show up. And that seems to be the focus, but it seems to be that's what's all around us, right?
Outdoor media, what are you talking about? Photographers, videographers, publishers?
Publishers for Mountain Bike Magazine, Mountain Flyer, and then there's Andy over at Off-Piste Ski Atlases, and Andy develops ski atlases for backcountry skiing. We had a conversation I think it was last week. He goes, Dan, I need help with my finances. And I go, Andy, hold on for a second. And then we went outside, and there happened to be at the co-working space someone that happened to be there that had that focus. And so that person took an hour and a half out of his day and sat down with Andy and walked him through how to lay out your financials. And then talking with other people in the space, he found out that he literally saved $10,000 through conversations that he had with other people within our space on the cost of printing his stuff. And so those conversations then lead to value. And that's a huge value for a small business owner with a savings of $10,000.
And so he got access to this conversation just because he was a member of the ICELab.
Yeah, he was in that space. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you set him up with a consultant who's going to charge him money for that hour and a half. This was just because it's a community of people all there to promote each other's ideas and have this conversation.
Yeah, you just don't know what's going to happen when you say hi to someone.
Can you save me $10,000, Dan?
Come on by. We'll see.
All right.
ThinkRadio is supported by the Gunnison Country Times, Gunnison, Colorado's locally owned hometown newspaper. ThinkRadio is also supported by listeners like you. To find out how you can join the ThinkRadio community of patrons, visit alanwartismedia.com. That's ALANWARTES media.com.
All right, so you've talked about the incubator. What else is there over there?
Well, we are in the end of week 9 of our first accelerator round, an accelerator program.
Okay, stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
You say accelerator, I think amusement park ride. What is an accelerator?
Best way to explain accelerators, and I like to kind of look back at them a little bit and where they evolved from. I know. It's going to be okay, Dan. We've been having these conversations on repeat. He's heard me say this so many times.
This is painful?
No,
it's not.
Good.
It's good.
She does it well.
But they're born out of the tech industry. So the concept or movement starts out of the tech industry because the tech industry needed a means to get tech ideas that had traction in front of humans and capital. So where tech was short was in human connections and the capitalization for those ideas. Because the tech industry, it was a fringe industry and wasn't built for traditional capital opportunities. And so what's interesting about taking that concept is that it's evolved into where lots of people use these accelerators for things like economic development, and it's expanded into other industries outside of just the tech segments. What we see now is an opportunity to sort of test the thesis of applying accelerators for economic development and in rural areas.
Yeah, you know what though? I gotta go back.
Yeah.
I still don't know what an accelerator is.
I know, we're getting there.
Okay, come on. Bring it.
So, but if you look at it, it's about human connections and capital and access to capitalization. So we're able to take what was serving a fringe industry and apply it to a fringe area.
So if I come in and I say, I've heard about this accelerator thing, sign me up, what happens next?
We have an application process every year. And we accept, anywhere from 3 to 5 companies into the program. And they'll go through 12 weeks of rigorous mentor-driven programming where it is really just about planting seeds and creating and really expanding their networks. But it's for the ideas that have the potential to really scale and grow. Suddenly you're a founder with a singular idea, and instead of going to market and trying to push your idea out to market with just the two of you, you suddenly have the team of 30 plus people, and that value, sort of a multiplier of, intellectual capital behind you, refining to make sure that your idea is viable and to shift and tweak and pivot the idea where it needs to, so that it can really gain traction.
That sounds hard. That sounds like if I bring my idea in, it's my baby, and I toss it into the middle of the floor, and people kick it around and see what works and what doesn't. That's got to be difficult.
Yeah, you got to wear big boy pants. Yeah.
Yes, and we ask you to forget everything you know the second you walk in the door.
You've got the first cohort underway. The ICELab Accelerator is up and running. 5 businesses that you selected from Gunnison and Delta counties, and they're almost all the way through this 12-week program now. At the end, there's something I still don't think I understand what this is. What the heck is a trout tank?
It's our version of a Shark Tank. Each of the 5 businesses have 6 minutes to go in front of 200 people and tell a story about who they are, what they're doing, what they're providing, and how they're going to move that forward. And at the end, they're going to answer the question of, what do I need to get there?
We have investors in the audience, and so we've been doing work to round up and warm up our regional venture funds, which there are many in Western Colorado, which will surprise most, I think. And then also important to have the community present, because this is a community celebration around the ingenuity that lives in rural Colorado.
If I'm a community member and I want to come see what's going on at the trout tank, what am I going to see?
Oh,
I mean, because I could stay home and watch Netflix, right?
And be lame, yes.
Yeah, well, okay. But I could do that. Why should I come down and participate? It's free. It's free. I don't have to pay to get in.
Yeah, it's free.
It's free.
Why should I spend my evening at the trout tank on November 6th?
Because it is a community celebration, and this is our chance to diversify and grow our economy from within. And so this is taking care of supporting and lifting up our own.
It's an economic development piece. I mean, you're seeing it from almost like start to finish in 6 minutes, and so those people will grow their business here, and you get to see the start of it.
Okay, well, let's talk about economic development. Why is it important?
Well, economic development is we have to think about diversifying the way that we approach economies. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we see ourselves as a tourist-based economy, agriculture-based economy, and we have to think even outside of that. And so we have to think about new concepts and new ideas to allow then my kids that are off to college here pretty soon to come back to the area and make a livable wage, be able to live here, be able to buy a place. And so thinking outside of the box, not just for us, but in Delta County too, I think is hugely important for all of us.
We have this amazing breadth of businesses here, and an accelerator can help those businesses gain traction faster. And if you ask a lot of those businesses, this would have been an incredible opportunity at a starting point to refine a lot of what they were doing. So it does, in theory, and what we're hopeful for is that it gives us an opportunity to grow more of those flagship businesses that really support and define our culture and add job impact to the community, and to get them up to speed a little bit faster.
Over the last couple of years, this community engaged in a pretty deep conversation about itself in the One Valley Prosperity Project. And one of the things that rose to the top was that nearly everybody is interested in economic development, interested in better paying jobs, interested in the kind of things that will allow our kids to stay here, as you say, Dan. How do you see the accelerator fitting into that community goal?
It's a driver.
And with the boom in Colorado, it's an all hands on deck moment to get, our communities further west on the other side of the divide. Really sort of get that economic diversification flowing and take care of our people on the ground.
Yeah, so a lot of people would say, well, yeah, but you live in the boonies. There's a hard ceiling to what can be done here. What's your answer to that?
We say ideas are not bound to time and space.
Which means?
Dun, 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 dun.
Which means there's really no difference between rural and metro except for density. And, you know, there are some challenges for manufacturing and things of that nature for certain companies to grow here. But they can certainly start here and develop here and create pilot facilities elsewhere. There's nothing really stopping a business from laying a foundation anywhere in
It's way
Colorado.
different now. I mean, the people that we talk to on a daily basis throughout the state and throughout the U.S., I mean, we're making incredible relationships with people that we don't even know.
Yeah.
But that want to come and play with us. And so I think that you're right. There are no mountains where we're looking.
All right, one last time. Trout Tank. When, where, how do I get there?
Monday, November 6th
Western's University Center Theater,
on the Western State Campus at.
7 to 9.
And then in Delta
November 13th,
at the Paonia Theater. What is
Paonia's
that?
Paradise Theater from
Paradise.
6 to 8.
Yep.
Both events have a keynote speaker, and we have a guest MC joining us here in Gunnison as well.
And who is that?
Don't you want to know?
I do.
You got to come and find out.
Got to come find out.
All right, mystery surrounds the
We hold
Trout
our cards
Tank.
tight at the ICELab.
I guess so.
We found out today that the Jackson family will be there from Jackson Honest Chips. And if you watched the premiere of Shark Tank earlier this month, the first part of October, they were part of that premiere show. And so they did their pitch, but instead of in front of 200 people, I think that they said that they did their pitch in front of 9 million chip eaters. After conversations, I think, during that event and during the premiere, and even conversations following that, they walked away with some good capital and some good backing to help them grow, which is really cool for a Crested Butte Boulder family.
Yeah,
So
I think
you're
I got $1 million plus.
So you're saying if I come to the Trout Tank, I'm going to see somebody that's been on television, an entrepreneur celebrity. All right.
A local entrepreneur, now celebrity.
Yeah.
Yet another reason to come. Delaney, Dan, thanks for joining me.
Alan, our pleasure.
Yep, absolutely.
ThinkRadio is supported by the Gunnison Country Times, Gunnison, Colorado's locally owned hometown newspaper. Thanks for joining me. See you next time on ThinkRadio.